not live in the city of Allentown. They come from the surrounding suburbs and work here.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they use our services. They, drive on our streets.
Mm-hmm.
They,
Mm-hmm.
Use
But they're
fire
not putting
police,
any
but they're
money
not
in the
putting any
coffers.
money into the
Okay,
coffers.
I understand.
And so, just like the other municipalities, we went out, we explained to people why it was important. 6 months later, Alfonso passed 3-1.
Wow.
Failed 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
6 months before that, passed 3-1. 6 months later. So the reason that's important because it brings in about $3.1 million of new revenue on a yearly basis.
Okay.
We also went after a casino. We were in a fight with Bethlehem.
Right.
Obviously, we did not win.
Yeah.
They had the Sands, we had the Tropicana, but we put up a good fight, and
Right.
we actually got them to basically say uncle, because at the end of the day, we were able to work with them. We wrote into the final gaming law that passed the state the only two municipalities in the entire Commonwealth that are actually sharing revenue. So we get 20% of their revenue for perpetuity.
Okay.
For all time.
So as soon as they're
As
built
soon,
and
as soon
everything,
as they're up,
we get a little
and
bit of
it's
that
based on
also.
the casino. So I care less about their hotel.
Right.
I just want the casino.
Casino money. Yeah,
because
exactly. I understand.
That helps bring in revenue for the
Well,
city.
what is this we hear about the I guess the riverfront project?
Well, we'll get into development
Okay,
segment.
yeah,
Let's talk
yeah.
about the finances.
Uh-huh.
So the other thing we did was we focused on reducing our long-term liabilities, and we had debt. Our overall debt is not that substantial. We have about $120 million
Right.
worth of combined debt. Okay. You compare that with Bethlehem, which is about 40,000 less than us in population. They have about $500 million worth of combined debt. So it wasn't that we had this enormous debt burden, but the way the debt was structured was significant because it all ballooned. And it ballooned starting in 2008. It increased our payments by about $7 million a year, up to $9 million by 2010. That's significant.
Yeah, that's a lot of debt.
Revenue increase. Okay?
Yeah,
we had to basically be able to cover.
Right.
And so we restructured that. We flattened it out. We saved $19 million over the next 7 years. We also were able to reap some of the savings in interest rates over the last year as the markets have gone down. Restructured some of our debts there, saved about $680,000. The bottom line is we have not had to raise property taxes in the last 4 budgets, and we basically went from an $8 million projected deficit to a $14 million cash reserve in 3 years. Now, this year we've had some real challenges, like everybody else across the board. Whether it's the United Way, which is down $1 million in their revenue, or public television station, who was down 30% in their revenue just recently. Our local paper was down in their revenue, and whether it's companies, we have layoffs at Air Products and PPL. Everybody seems to be down in revenue because the economy has really,
How is that affecting the city?
Well, it's affecting the city because our revenue has been down, very slightly, but slight variations for us become an issue as we move forward to balance out our budget. So I'll give you an example. We were down about 1.5% in property tax this year.
Okay.
That's not a lot. Okay, 1.5% doesn't seem like a real wide variation. But that 1.5% is about $480,000. So
and that can make a big difference.
That can make a big difference because if you're off a little bit on each of those categories, it starts to add up. And of course, the economy is starting to affect people. Real people in our communities, and it's not just some ethereal discussion that's in Washington. It's
happening here in the valley.
Affecting people.
So it has come here.
It has come here, and because we're the largest municipality in the region, I don't think people realize it. Allentown is the 3rd largest city in the state of Pennsylvania. It is Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and the city of Allentown. You could put Bethlehem and Easton together, and you still do not have the population of the city of Allentown.
Wow.
We are a growing city. We're the fastest growing region. We're the fastest growing city. We're the only city in the Commonwealth that's actually increasing in population at the rate that we are. And so, we have a big urban area here that, that has a lot of moving parts and moving components. And so when one of those starts slowing down, it does have an effect on us. The good news is that because we've built up such a large reserve over the course of the last several years, we can make it through. We're not like Philadelphia. We're not talking about cutting services or vital quality of life initiatives. We're able to make it through this very tough time. Now, I'm not just standing on the fact that we've built up this reserve over the course of the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
We're addressing the problem head on, just like I did when I came into office. We saw this huge problem. We put together a team that was bipartisan, that had professionals from across
Mm-hmm.
the area, across the city, across the region, to help us chart out this plan that I just talked about.
And is this the
Okay?
committee that they were talking about?
And we're doing it again.
Okay.
We formed a
Mm-hmm.
joint committee with myself and the president of the city council are heading it up. And that committee is charged to look at ways that we can further cut costs, create efficiencies within government, and look at ways to bring in new non-taxable revenue. So we're working, even though we have this funds. It's kind of like the story, Joseph in the Bible.
Okay.
7 years of plenty to make it through 7 years of famine. Okay, now
yeah.
I'm hoping it doesn't go 7 years.
Okay, right. Mm-hmm.
If it does, none of us.
Right, I understand.
We're all going to be in trouble
Mm-hmm,
at that point.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
I'm confident that the steps that our president has put in place are going to have some effect as we move along. I'm confident that we'll be able to make it through without having to really stop the progress that we've been making on a lot of different fronts of the city. And we have a solid fiscal foundation now that's going to help us get through this storm.
Okay.
But like I said, we're not waiting around to see that foundation vanish, okay, and diminish.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that we look for new ways that we could bring in some new revenue, reduce our costs, restructure our long-term liabilities, so that we continue to have that reserve going through for many years.
Now, when you were talking about the new revenue, what are some of the ideas that you've had as
Well,
far as adding revenue to the city of Allentown?
Well, we've like I said, we've talked about a couple things we've done in the past to add new revenue. We have some new ideas that we're going to be talking about over the course of the next couple weeks with this committee.
Okay.
Whether it's selling some land that the city has owned for many years. I'll give you one example.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, the state hospital, which is out on Hanover Street, okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's about 80 acres on that site.
Right. Mm-hmm.
40 acres is just vacant land. Beautiful land, overlooks the Lehigh River, has these beautiful vistas of South Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm.
Up until the 1970s, they used to require patients to do manual labor. So they actually farmed the land. It was a farm.
Oh, okay.
And of course, somebody then in the 1970s, well, we really can't do that.
Okay,
We can't force these patients to do manual labor, and they stopped that practice. And so you'll notice in state hospitals, whether it's in here or whether it's in Norristown or wherever, there's big tracts of land that are attached to these hospitals because they actually
they were farms.
They were farms,
okay.
In the middle of cities. And so we actually worked last year. We petitioned our state legislators, and we were able to get the state legislature to pass a bill to actually chop off 40 acres of that so we can actually develop it. Now, it's 40 acres that's not on the tax roll. We worked into the bill that we get a percentage of the profits from the sale of the land. So that's, a revenue initiative that we're working on this year. We're looking at figuring out how we could, sell that land, get it developed. We get the money from the sale of the land, obviously, up front, but we also get the long-term benefit of having new tax revenue go into the city and the school district and the county.
Wow.
So we're looking at a lot of creative ways. We have a number of other initiatives that we want to run past this committee, and a number of folks have already come to me with ideas saying, I got some ideas, let's see how we can implement them. Because there's a great quote from Woodrow Wilson that says, I'm not only going to use all the brains that I have, I'm going to use all that I can borrow.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And that's what we're doing here. As we did in the beginning, that's how we got out of the fiscal mess that we were in and built up this huge reserve. And that's what we're going to do in this very difficult economic time our country's facing. Now, the second piece of this has been public safety. And we have rebuilt the police force. We now went from 160 officers when I came in 3 years ago. We have over 200 now. We have another 15 that we're going to hire over the course of the next several months.
Now, this is dealing with the crime.
This is dealing with crime, because we lost all these police officers, and this is not, it's not like Mayberry, where you have Barney Five and you stick a badge on him and you make him a deputy, okay? This is a long process to train a police officer. It's almost 16 months from start to finish. You have to first go through background. First, they got to get on the civil service list, okay, and then they go through background checks and physicals and psychologicals and polygraphs. And if they make it through that, which usually takes about 3 months, then they go through 9 months